Hello and welcome to the Spring Town Meeting Virtual Warrant Presentation. My name is James Smith. I am your town manager and I'm joined by
Jen Hager, your Community Development Director.
This year's annual town meeting will take place on Monday, May 13th at 7 p.m. in the middle school, high school auditorium. The doors open promptly at 6:30 and the moderator likes to begin right on time at 7 o'clock. So let's not disappoint our trusty moderator and be there to get the town's business done. There were originally 20 articles on this town meeting warrant, but there are currently 18. And the reason there are only 18 and not 20 is because the select board received a request from one of the petitioners to remove 2 solar overlay districts that the petitioner was asking to be created at 5R Leland Hill and 48R Peachtree Drive. They went through the planning board hearings and finance committee public hearings. The results of those hearings weren't positive. The planning board voted 5-0 not to recommend. 4. The petitioner went back, got signatures from the original signers of that petition and presented to the select board. And when the select board signed the warrant, they agreed to remove those 2 citizens petitions from the warrant. So people may feel like, great, we don't have to deal with this. The fact is, if they come back and they modify the petition slightly to include part of this land and maybe another parcel or some other variant, then it's entirely possible that we could have a future petition, citizens petition, at an upcoming town meeting, whether it be fall town meeting or May town meeting, remains to be seen. So just pay attention to what's going on, but it is a possibility that it could come back and we'll have to deal with it in the same way we dealt with the original petition. Okay, let's get into the warrant. The first article is to receive reports from town officers and committees. This is the annual report. Every once in a while, I think the last time was the Charter Bylaw Review Committee presented reports to town meeting on the status of their progress. But this is kind of an article that goes on every town meeting, and usually it's quickly dealt with. Article 2 is to authorize the cemetery commissioners to employ themselves. This article is a requirement under Massachusetts General Law 268A, Conflict of Interest Law. Town meeting must approve the cemetery commissioners to do cemetery work. That's what 268 authorizes, is the legislative body, which is town meeting in the town of Sutton, authorize this to be done on an annual basis. So this is a recurring article every May town meeting. Article 3 is very similar. It's for the Board of Health to employ themselves. And again, under 268A, town meeting needs to approve it. Lately, I don't think we've had any inspectors working as Board of Health members that we can have go out and do inspections, but it's there just in case we need it. Article 4 is to fund the sewer enterprise fund. This year, that account recommended budget is $859,983, and that's to fully fund the sewer enterprise account for the year. The Article 5 is the transfer station, another enterprise account, and we are funding that at $157,353. Again, these enterprise accounts are not general fund accounts. They are off to the side. but the budget needs to fully support their expenses, which is essentially what the enterprise fund is all about. Article 6 is the 2025 fiscal year budget. This year, the budget's funded at $39,900,655. This is our annual appropriation. It's tight, as it always has been. We have talked about, during our 5-year forecast to the board, that, we are running out of options, but we're able to balance it this year, and, we'll see what we have to do next year. But it is a balanced budget. There are no reductions in staffing, and we're good for another year. Article 7 is the capital plan, the annual capital plan for 2025. The capital plan is $910,500. The true capital plan also has other amounts that are funded by different sources. We are redoing cemetery on Armsby Road. We're building actually a cemetery on Armsby Road, and that's coming out of cemetery general care funds. And the $50,000 we have set aside for fiber, that's coming out of the American Rescue Plan Act, that we have funds set aside for that work. So it is, again, another healthy capital plan, and we have a pretty good free cash number that allows us to do pretty good capital plans going forward. Article 8 is to borrow in anticipation of revenue for Chapter 90. This is a placeholder. We've never had to borrow in anticipation of revenue for the Chapter 90 program. However, there's some issues where if it's late submission and receiving of the Chapter 90 funds, if it's after June 30th, then the state's going to require that we hit our free cash to pay for this shortage. It gives us authorization to borrow just in case we need to for the $470,000 we received in Chapter 90 funds. So again, it's just something mechanically that we have in place if needed, but in the last 10 plus years we haven't had to go this way.
Chapter 90 funds are only for highway-related work?
That's correct. Good point. It is pretty much for road repavement and reconstruction. It can also be used to purchase vehicles and other highway-related expenditures. But the board has made it very clear that they want this money spent on the roads. So any new, truck or a large vehicle comes out of capital, and the Chapter 90 is exclusively for paving roads and reconstructing roads. So that's a very good point. Article 9. This is a take back, if you will. Last May town meeting, I think it was Article 12, that we voted out $370,000 in special ed stabilization fund to fund extraordinary out-of-district special education costs. At the end of the year, with the business manager over at the school and the finance director here at town, they came to realization that we really didn't need the $370,000. So that money's been under the control of the town accountant, and this year, with the budget balanced and special education costs decreasing significantly, we can put that money back into the special ed stabilization fund. So this is a vote to put that money back in the special ed stabilization fund where it originally came from. So it's positive in that we didn't have to go to that reserve, and we have an extra $370,000 going back into that account. That account is growing. It was created in 2017. Jeff Bannon, a member of the select board, came up with the idea, and there's over $1 million in that account right now. So it's there in case of an emergency, and we will use it in that case. Article 10. This is to vote money to go into the opioid expense account. I think last May town meeting, the town authorized the police chief and the fire chief, under consultation from the town manager, to utilize this account for expenditures related to opioid-related issues. You know, Narcan is a popular choice, but you know there are some state agencies that are making that available at no cost to communities. So we are looking at other options to use these opioid funds. We originally participated in a class action lawsuit against opioid-related distribution and supply companies, the Sackler Group, CVS, and all the major distributors of opioids. And a number of the cases have been settled, and we receive these benefits. And these receipts that we receive need to go towards dealing with the opioid crisis. And this is one of the avenues we have to approach it. So that both chiefs and myself are working on this and trying to identify education and other issues that will help with the opioid situation in the town of Sutton. Article 11 is to vote some funds out of the compensated absences account to fund the police department chief's salary account. It's a long presentation to say the police chief is retiring after 30 years of service to the town of Sutton. He's the only chief I've ever worked with in my 17 years here, and as Jen as well. You know, obviously he wasn't chief at that time, but he's part of that department, and he will be missed. This is to pay out his accrued vacation, sick leave buyback, etc., so that we can hire a police chief new, and they start on day one when the chief retires and leaves. So we don't have the issue of not having a police chief and having to hang on, of not hiring a full-time chief until the former chief's time is paid out. So this way, we can do that and then hire a chief immediately when Dennis Toll retires. The compensated absences account was created a number of years ago, funded through free cash, and you know, we've used it to pay out some retirees sick leave buyback, vacation buyback. Dave Perry, Ted Friend, the superintendent, a number of individuals, the assessor Joyce Sargnola. That account has been helpful, and we'll look to probably put a little bit more money in that account at fall town meeting to replenish it. But you know, it's taken care of a lot of legacy items, items that have existed for many years, and we'll end up running out of these issues, which is a positive for the town.
Article 12 is having town meeting accept an alteration of the layout of Depot Street. So the reason we're doing this is we've been working with the state for quite a number of years, looking at substandard bridges throughout the town. And we've been fortunate that the state has agreed to partner with us multiple times in replacing these bridges. The last one we did was Blackstone Street Bridge. It was rated a 4 out of 10. The state paid over $4 million towards that bridge rehab, and the town is on the hook only for the costs of the permanent and temporary easements that we need to take to accomplish the work. So Blackstone Street Bridge was done, Depot Street Bridge is next. So again, the state will be spending well over $4 million. That will likely, if everything goes well, be advertised at the end of June. But in advance of that, town meeting needs to vote to alter the layout of Depot Street to basically widen the bridge, and so that the town has control of the areas next to and below the bridge, basically the wing walls, the abutments, riprap under the bridge, so that if we need to maintain those or do anything with those over the years, that we have the legal ability to do that. So that's all this article is kind of the last step the town meeting needs to take to say, all right, let's adjust the layout of Depot Street, so it includes all of the pertinent areas of this new bridge layout. And then we're in a great position with a whole bunch of paperwork we're doing behind the scenes to be able to get this out to bid at the end of June. We'll start seeing articles like this in the fall because state is also partnering with us on replacement of the Manchog Street Bridge in front of the Manchog Post Office. Starting, well, we've been working for a while now, but you'll start to see those town meeting articles in the fall. So again, last step in being able to take advantage of this significant pool of state funding that we've been fortunate enough to kind of get our hands on and work cooperatively with the state to accomplish these significant bridge upgrades.
Huge. And these are actually town-owned bridges
They are town-owned
that the
bridges.
state is actually redoing at very little cost to the town residents. So.
Right, yeah, it's our job to make sure with our reps to Central Mass Regional Planning that these bridges are highlighted and put on the Transportation Improvement Program listing. And our reps have been awesome, and staff at making sure our regional planning agency is aware of these significant needs. And the state's been great in partnering with us, taking cost off the direct shoulders of Sutton taxpayers. And again, just leaving us with the cost of easements, which in this case, on this bridge, will be less than $100,000 for an over $4 million bridge.
Yeah. Nice return on investment.
Yes.
Article 13. See if the town will accept Mass General Law, Chapter 32, Section 2B. It allows call firefighters who are later appointed full-time firefighters to buy back more than 5 years of time. We have a couple of firefighters here in Sutton that started as call firefighters and became full-time working for the town of Sutton. You know, one individual has been working full-time for 7 or 8 years and has many years of call time prior to those permanent 8 years. So this is an opportunity for that individual to go to Worcester Regional after this law has passed town meeting and apply to buy back time, which means they have to take money out of their pocket to buy back more creditable service, which essentially is time on the books. So it's a lot of work and investment. You have to go through all your payroll records and everything. And but you know, this is for our public safety departments, and in this case, fire. And we want to do what we can to support the fire department. So this is a good thing that we're bringing on. Article 14 is a citizen's petition to accept Stockwell Farm Way. Jen?
All right, so Article 14, it was taken a little out of order. So we had some residents petition the town to take this roadway as a public road. Nothing unusual about that. The problem here is, although this road was designed as a public way and always anticipated to be taken as a public way, there is a legal series of steps that have to occur under Mass General Law for a roadway to actually be accepted as public. These include having a plan of the roadway, making sure all the rights in the roadway are in the hands of one party, usually the developer, so they can be cleanly transferred to the town, and then going through the process with the Board of Selectmen where, like Depot Street alteration, they vote their intention to lay out the roadway as public, they refer it to the planning board to get their recommendation, then it comes back to the Board of Selectmen to place that layout on file in the town clerk's office. And at that point, town meeting votes it, and within 120 days after town meeting, all of those legal documents need to be executed and placed on file with the registry. Unfortunately, there is a deadline for any articles that need to go on the warrant, and the citizens, in this case, many of them who live on the road, were worried about making the deadline, so they got in the article asking that the roadway be accepted instead of letting the Board of Selectmen, who usually sponsor these articles, kind of take control of that. They were worried that that wouldn't happen or happen in a timely manner. So they filed a petition, and the legal paperwork hasn't followed in a timely manner. So at this point, it's not legally possible to complete all that paperwork in the time that needs to be completed, to be able to make this vote count. I'm not sure if we've determined how we're gonna deal with this on town meeting floor. Town meeting can still certainly vote to
I
adopt.
would likely pass over this article,
Okay.
and, you know, hopefully at the fall town meeting, the engineering work is done.
That would be great. I mean, in the instance that it is voted on, it would be considered advisory. You'd have to see the same article on a future warrant once all of the steps have been adhered to. So it was just a timing issue, no ill intent on anybody's part, just a lack of understanding on the residents' part of what needed to happen, which is understandable, and just the inability to get all of the paperwork done in time.
So this roadway was built under the planning board subdivision regulations, so it was built to be accepted eventually,
Yes,
but there is a process that needs to go through.
exactly.
The next article is Article 15, to see if the town will vote to accept Mass General Law, Chapter 149, Section 33E, that allows a town employee to take a leave of absence of not more than 30 days in a calendar year for an organ donation. This was originally a citizen's petition, but the board decided to adopt it and be the sponsor of this article. In my 30 years of service to municipalities, this is the first time I've ever seen this. I think it's a wonderful, thoughtful article that doesn't force the employee to use up all their time to do the altruistic thing of donating an organ to an individual. So this is, it to me just feels like the right thing to do, and I think the board agreed by voting to sponsor this article, and that's Article 15. Article 16, see if the town will pay for costs to remediate a sewer line break in Millbury. This is part of the intermunicipal agreement that we entered into with the town of Millbury back in 2008, I think it was. It's a 25-year agreement that we entered into, and this break was on the line between the Sutton system and the Millbury pump station. So there is language in the IMA, the intermunicipal agreement, that requires the town of Sutton to pick up a portion of that cost, repair of that line to the Millbury pump station. So it is, you know, it happened. It's life, and you know, it is part of a long-term agreement that we have with the town of Millbury, and we're doing the right thing by having these funds appropriated out of the connection fees. So this is not coming out of the general fund, it's coming out of the sewer enterprise fund, and a subset of that is the connection fees as part of that sewer enterprise fund.
So sewer users basically are paying for the sewer costs.
That's exactly right, thank
Okay.
you. Where are we at?
17.
17, to see if the town will raise funds for a programmable logic controller at the wastewater treatment facility, also known as a PLC. So this is, again, coming out of I don't know that it's coming out of connection fees. It might be out of retained earnings within the sewer department. But again, it's not general fund. It's out of the sewer enterprise fund, which sewer users pay for. But this is an upgrade on what is essentially the SCADA system. It's basically allows you to remote into the sewer plant and see the chemicals and everything else, the interactions going on. Every once in a while, something goes wrong, an alarm goes off on an individual's phone, usually the sewer commissioner, or the sewer director, Don Obachowski. He becomes aware. He can then go to the site remotely and see what's happening with all the chemicals and everything else that's going on at the plant. So it's a worthy investment. It doesn't require that you need somebody on site 24/7, which is obviously a huge operational cost. It allows you to remote in and diagnose whatever's happening at the plant. So that's a good expense. And the last is sponsored by the Blackstone Vocational Regional School Committee to borrow up to $10 million for a new roof and HVAC systems. This is sponsored by BVT. They'll be there to speak to this and present at town meeting. But the idea is that the roof has reached close to its end of life, and it's time to replace the roof. And while they're up there, their intent is also to replace a lot of the aged infrastructure, the HVAC units on top of the roof. Part of this article also has a contingency that they need to apply for and receive funding from the Mass School Building Authority, MSBA. So that's part of you can do it assuming you can get approval and funding from the MSBA. So the town's impact will be roughly 8.1% of the borrowing on a 20-year note. If they get 55, a lot of numbers, if they get 55% reimbursement from MSBA, the total cost is probably around the $30,000 to $35,000 per year over the next 20 years. Rather than doing a debt exclusion override for this issue, we wanted to limit the impact on the ratepayers, the taxpayers. So we're going to take it out of the capital stabilization fund, $30,000, $35,000 a year, whatever the final number comes out to. If town meeting agrees to this, then that's how we will fund this article. BVT is one of our schools that in the town of Sutton, along with Norfolk Aggie and the Sutton school system. So this is clearly a need versus a want, and Finance Committee endorsed it and supported it, and obviously we're asking for town meeting approval on this article. And the last two articles would have been the citizens' petitions on large ground-mounted solar, but as I mentioned earlier, those have been pulled, and they will not be on this town meeting. And that is it. Anything else you want to, any closing thoughts?
No, show up twice a year,
Yeah.
participate in local government.
Look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Take care.